people were putting in suggestions about what they wanted to talk about, there were quite a few submissions from ePortfolio Ireland group saying, oh, we'd like to talk about this, we'd like to talk about that. So I thought, well, why not get you to group together and do a group presentation and share all the wonderful stuff that's been coming out of your events and initiatives that you've got going over in Ireland. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tom, Karen, Lisa and Orna, and wondering where the slides are.
Let me see.
I think you have to make them prominent. There we go, lovely. So I'm going to dip out now, but yeah, take it away.
Thank you, Sam, and hi, folks. It's a pleasure to be here, and also thanks to Jasmine, Caroline and John for those excellent presentations. My name is Karen Buckley, and I'm here with my colleagues Tom Farrelly, Lisa Donaldson and Orna Farrell, and we are ePortfolio Ireland. And I suppose we wanted to take this opportunity to share with you who we are and what we do in ePortfolio Ireland, and to really take the opportunity to pause and reflect on our past activities and what we've been up to over the past couple of years, take a breath on the present, and taken into consideration, I suppose, huge interest that has emerged for ePortfolio, certainly in our experience in Ireland, and then look forward to the future and share with you our future plans. And really we want to use this as an opportunity to invite new colleagues and people who we haven't connected with yet to join our ePortfolio Ireland crew. And also, just to mention to you, the link to our presentation is on the screen in front of you. It's a bit.ly link /ePortfolio IRL. So feel free to click on the link. But really just to introduce you to the ePortfolio Ireland team. So those of you who don't know about us yet, we're a professional learning network for ePortfolio practitioners and researchers, and we're based in Ireland. We were established in 2017 as Mahara IRL, and we rebranded as ePortfolio Ireland back in 2018, and it was really to better represent the broader interests of all of our members. And I suppose we are a grassroots community, and we, the voluntary steering group, hold regular online and face-to-face events to try to support faculty in professional development and ongoing collaboration between ePortfolio practitioners and higher ed in particular. And I suppose like any professional learning network, I mean, we are brought together with a passion for ePortfolio practice, but also, and what we've discovered and unearthed over the past couple of years is that there is huge variance in ePortfolio use across Ireland and higher education. It's really interesting, I suppose, to share with you maybe some of our activities that we've done, and also our various interests across the ePortfolio committee as well. And just to introduce to you the faces on screen, those of you will know, of course, Lisa Donaldson. Lisa is a learning technologist in the Teaching Enhancement Unit here in DCU in Dublin. And Lisa is responsible for the rollout of the learning portfolio platform, Loop Reflect, as we call it here in DCU, to all of our faculty and students in DCU. And Lisa, of course, is our illustrious leader. She's the founder of ePortfolio Ireland Community of Practice back in 2017. Dr. Orla Farrell. Orna is an assistant professor and programme chair for DCU Connected in Dublin City University, and I suppose Orna works within DCU's National Institute for Digital Learning, or NIDL, where I suppose she really explores educational technology, higher ed transitions, and has a keen interest and research base in ePortfolio-based learning. Dr. Tom Farrelly is our newest member to the ePortfolio Ireland crew, is a social science lecturer and educational developer in the Institute of Technology in Tralee. And again, research interest around technology enhanced learning, open education and ePortfolio. And Tom is also the editor of the Irish Journal of Technology Enhanced Learning, which we're going to be sharing with you a little bit later as well. If you are interested in learning more about some of our ongoing events and activities, log on to the ePortfolio Ireland website, which is outlined on the slide in front of you, and connect with us on Twitter. ePortfolio IRL is our Twitter handle, and we'd love to connect with you further. Follow us on our website. We have regularly upload our events and different initiatives that we run to try and promote and to discuss ePortfolio practice across higher ed. But also, if you're interested in joining our mailing list, just drop us a quick email to ePortfolioIRL@gmail.com. With this mailing list, we will share with you our upcoming activities, what's going on, and we would just love to keep in touch with you. I know that many of you, of course, are connected with us already, but particularly those new names and faces, we would love to hear from you. So again, going back to looking at our past, present and future, I'm happy to hand over to look at our past.
Thank you, Karen. And can I just start by saying we're actually not that old, as that slide represents. I'm going to leave you drive, Karen, so if you don't mind moving on to the next slide, that would be brilliant. So we have been since 2017, and we've run quite a lot of events and activities for ePortfolio enthusiasts and champions across the country. And I suppose one of our most successful events was an event that
just having
Lisa, I think there's a bit of a delay.
Kind of new. Hear me?
There's a bit of a delay, Lisa.
Try now.
But I'll turn off my camera. I'm just going to hear a disembodied voice. Does that work?
Yeah, we can hear your head.
Okay. So
no visuals is much better.
No visuals. So perfect. We'll go with that. What we look to do is try to find unusual ways, interesting ways, engaging ways to stimulate conversation and collaboration. And the ePortfolio Conference was one of those. I have to say it took nerves of steel to run a full day conference for 60 registered people with no agenda as people walked into the room. But thanks to the openness of the community, a great team, and trusting in the technology, it actually was a great success for stimulating the conversations around what people really wanted to talk about, rather than us setting an agenda. So we wrote about it in the AEPR review, the Journal of Able, and our own Teresa McKinnon recorded a podcast on that with me for ALT as well. So we always look to try and engage, as I say, in different ways. And if you move on to the next slide for me, Karen, I'd like to share just some of the things that came out of, oh, congratulations, Louise, you're in the photo, that's fantastic. Some of the ways in which we worked with people on that day, and I'm just sharing a link there with you now. The assessment ebook came out of one of those sessions at the Unconference. And at the time, I personally was looking for a way to share ePortfolio practices with people that hadn't used ePortfolio and couldn't see how they might embed it in their assessment strategy. So we sought examples of ePortfolios from across the community, and I'm sure, yes, Louise, you're in the book as well. Karen, it's very efficient here because a lot, so we have a lot to share. Quite a number of face-to-face professional development as well as webinars, and in those webinars we've had speakers from the US, from New Zealand. Those face-to-face.
You're breaking up again a lot, Lisa.
I'll stop, I'll pause. It must be my internet here, which generally is quite good.
Well, power away there. I mean, one of us can jump in if it's really bad. Okay, cool. What I just wanted to say around face-to-face is you make conversation as well. And at our one of our last events, face-to-face events, we used another verse for to again support conversation within our group. It was kind of speed dating format where we all moved around the room, and it worked really well.
So speaking of speed dating, I'd like to introduce you to my partner in crime, who's going to our current event.
Okay, hi folks. Sorry about the audio there. So they were some of the past events. Just tell you a little bit about what we're working on at the moment. So you can change slides there, Karen, thanks. So we have a couple of projects going at the moment. One good project is a national survey of Irish ePortfolio practice. One of the things that really motivates us is to encourage people to get involved in ePortfolio, but also there's a real gap in the literature around practice in Ireland in particular, but practice more generally as well. I mean, the gap is getting filled. There's some great research going on at the moment. So one of the things we wanted to know more about was what's actually happening around the country in the different universities and institutes of technology and teacher education colleges with ePortfolio, because there was no data on it. So we ran a questionnaire. I can't even remember when it was. Was it in January or... Anyone? I don't know when it was. I've no sense of November. To see
It was November.
Oh, Jesus. Christina remembers. And so we got a pretty good response. I think we had representation from nearly every higher education institution and a few we hadn't heard of before. And some key things that came out. So on the left, some key themes there, reflective learning, employability. So they were some of the big drivers for introducing ePortfolio. It very much depended on the institutional context. If there was an institutional willingness or a strategy driving ePortfolio, it was more likely to be found in that particular institution. Support came up very strongly, professional development, particularly the technology and the pedagogy. And some recommendations we came up with from the data that we analysed were user-friendly platforms. So Mahara is a good example of that. And the one thing we really like about Mahara is the community around it, and the fact that, you know, if we have an idea or Lisa has an idea, that, you know, there's a willingness to develop and incorporate those ideas. So I think that's a real strength of Mahara. Tailored CPD. So CPD that I suppose targets either your discipline or your student type, or how it's going to be used, if it's going to be used for placement. And then there is a kind of a national policy context. In Ireland, there's a real vacuum in policy around this area. I mean, the National Forum have upped our game policy around technology in general, but there's still a massive gap in this area, and I think, you know, in a way we're trying to fill that gap. You can advance there, Karen. So here's a couple of snapshots from that questionnaire. You can see we had about 59 responses. Ireland is small though, so that's actually pretty good. So you can see the type of ePortfolio use. Mainly module based, so quite small scale. There's a few people using it all the way through an institution, and you can see the placement is a big driver as well, which we kind of already knew. Employability and placement is a big driver. It'd be interesting to repeat this maybe in a year's time and see what impact the pandemic has had. So that might be an interesting thing for us to do. So again, further information on drivers. Reflective learning comes out strongly. Innovation and assessment, employability. Professional accreditation also, so in areas like nursing and stuff like that, that comes out kind of strongly, although the Board of Nursing, and I believe in Ireland, is not kind of into it yet. Tom is going to talk to you about another current project we have. Tom?
Hi everybody. Yeah, and thanks for that photograph, Lisa, by the way. That's great sentimental value there to me. As Karen said when she introduced me, I'm also involved in the editorial team of the Irish Journal of Technology Enhanced Learning, which is the journal of the Irish Learning Technology Association. I'll just give out a shameless plug there as well, if I can just get a link up there now in a second. But as I said, we put out a special issue call in May, looking at a number of the teams there around case studies there, or emerging teams, so that you can see there. I won't delay by I won't delay by reading them all out, but the aim very much is to try and get people involved and sort of not just in Ireland, but we'd also welcome people writing in from abroad. And in response to the FemEdTech call letter to the editors, we're also particularly mindful of that the pandemic has really impacted heavily on those people with caring duties, and despite what we might like to think about society moving on, it still is disproportionately involved or falls on women. So I thought that's our call, and thanks Lisa, she put up the issue there. We're actually having a Pomodoro type event on Monday if people want to sort of jump in and join in, have the crack. So my God, Orna and Lisa, you are doing absolutely brilliant job, because I'm just sitting here with the hands away and I'm absolutely useless. So as I said, we really would encourage people to have a look at the journal, and if they're interested in submitting into the paper, that would be useful. So do you want to move that on, please, Karen? So just wait a moment. Where are we at? The crowdsource guide introducing women research. Very active. Was I to talk in here, or Lisa, would you to come back in here?
Well, I'll try and come back in, but God knows if my audio is sufficient. So looking to the future, this is something that we're looking to, again, crowdsource and work on collaboratively with the community, and have an explainer guide developed within our own Irish context. So those institutions that are interested in exploring ePortfolio based assessment have a go-to guide which can introduce the key purposes, drivers, technologies, key literature points, and for those that are trying to influence others within their institution, that we have that explainer guide that will support them in doing it. So that will be where we're going to next.
But in a simple way, Lisa, I think was our aim. We don't want to overwhelm people, because we're thinking about someone maybe starting from zero. So we're hoping a nice short, simple guides that could get you up and running during a pandemic.
We're all about short and simple.
Yeah. And I think that's certainly been evident in many of our events to date as well. I'm sure you'd agree, folks. Often we see lots of new faces, and particularly something that we've seen is a new drive from the further education or adult or community education sector here in Ireland, where there is a desire to explore the use of portfolio and the benefits ePortfolio can have for students. And I think that's been one of the real successes of ePortfolio Ireland, is that we are welcoming all practitioners, and whether you are a newbie like we all were at one stage, or you're maybe a little bit more developed in your practice across your institution, the conversations have been really useful. We're picking up ideas and we're disseminating what works well very effectively, and I suppose even more so now in the online space, we're going to be using that so much more moving forward. I don't know when we're going to get to have a face-to-face event in the future, but certainly I think it's through those conversations and it's sharing good practice, sharing ideas, has been really effective for us thus far.
And essentially, I suppose we're finishing on this philosophical slide to invite conversation, but also at our community meetup later, even if you're not in Ireland, you're welcome to come. That's what we're going to think about, is like, what should we do next? What does the community want? And if you are interested in submitting to the journal, there is a short abstract deadline of the end of July, if I'm remembering right. And I'll just put our emails in the chat box there. So if you would like to, or else you can do the ePortfolio Ireland one either, or Twitter us. But if you haven't written before, that's okay. We're aiming to kind of provide support. There's a lovely Pomodoro event that Tom is leading in, is it next week?
Monday. Yeah.
Is it next
Monday.
week? Sure. I'll put the Eventbrite link in there for that too. So that's to help people write the abstract. So if you've never done this before, that's okay. We're totally mindful that can be a bit daunting for people,
Great. So, and we're happy to take any questions on past, present, or future that you may have.
Has anyone got any questions? I think looking at the comments, it's just people praising you for being awesome. And on Twitter, does anyone actually have any questions or anything they'd like to add, or have anybody been involved in the work that these guys have done and want to share your insight and how it's helped you?
There's definitely a few of our people on the list, but I'm not going to call names out. I see you though. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Siggy. I mean, if people want a bit of help setting up a similar community, we'd be very happy to do that. I mean, we're very organic. Like, things just kind of happen. People have ideas. Now, Lisa definitely was the person who started it off, but it kind of flows along, doesn't it?
Absolutely. From that point on, it's, as you say, very organic, and it's whoever has the idea runs with it. How we even came together as a group was organic, and I think that's the beauty of it. As Karen said, it's very much grassroots led.
And it's probably worth mentioning as well that we have no funding. There's no seed funding here. Of course, this intersects with much of our work that we do in our respective institutions and units. But this doesn't need to be costly. I mean, the greatest resource, of course, is our time and expertise. But we have no funding, and we've managed to secure some small seeding funding from, say, the National Forum for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning here in Ireland. But broadly, I mean, we come together and we design online events for free. And I think that, again, as Ali says, the Irish charm probably gets us away with murder half the time. But I mean, if you are thinking about setting up a similar professional learning network, it doesn't have to cost cash. It involves kind of getting together people who are passionate and interested and willing to put the work in. But really, I suppose it's worth mentioning that we don't have any funding. We have huge support, but we've no cash monies.
No,
we've a lot of enthusiasm as well. Sorry, Lisa.
And we have, thankfully, links out to other groups like us as well across the UK. Again, those webinars, so many other groups external to Ireland, and even external to the kind of context that we work in. So, as I said right at the beginning, Mahara is all about community, and I think whether it's internal to Ireland in our own group or external, ePortfolio in general.
So yeah, if feel free to reach out if you want to help a hand setting it up. But as the guys have said, like our Mahara our website is a free WordPress. Everything else is just our time and effort. But we enjoy the work, and we have a bit of fun. So
we have lots of fun, and the glasses of wine after every event are also fun. They may be virtual now, but that's okay.
Yeah. We can all drink wine at our desks. It's fine.
El Desco.
Brilliant.